people, I'm back. I watched another movie, so it's your time for your favorite guy talks about obscure movie that you've never seen or probably heard of. This time, I watched a movie called Self-Reliance. It is a Hulu original movie. It is directed by, written by, and starred in by Jake Johnson, who, if you've seen Let's Be Cops or New Girl, or he's in a ton of stuff, you are familiar with him and his style of comedy. So yeah, this movie is his directorial debut. This is his first ever movie that he is like fully in charge of directing and everything. Self-Reliance is a movie about a guy who Jake Johnson plays a guy named Tommy who just has a boring everyday job. He has a boring life. He gets up, he goes to work, he comes home, he goes to bed, he gets up, he goes to work. A lot of adults. He's randomly just picked up one day on the side of the road by Andy Samberg, who plays himself. So he's referred to as Andy Samberg in the movie. Pulls up in a limo. Andy Samberg asks him, do you want to play this game? And Tommy, of course, is like, sure, because my life sucks. Why wouldn't I want to do something to spice it up, And Andy Samberg already knows all of his information, like everything about him, all this stuff, like all his personal information about like his personal life and stuff. They ride in this limo to a warehouse where Tommy goes in and he sits down with these two guys that I think are like Swedish or something. They have a funny accent. I don't know exactly what they were, but they definitely look Swedish. Like they're like older dudes with like long, unnecessarily long hair. But they basically then explain the rules of the game to him, which is if he can survive 30 days being hunted by the hunters, at the end of 30 days he will receive $1 million. How many millions of dollars? Or like a couple $1 million. I don't remember the exact amount. I think it might just be 1 million. I'm not sure, but they explain that this game is apparently from the dark web, which is already, big red flag. Don't recommend getting involved with that at all for any reason. But the one stipulation to the game is that if Tommy is within arm's length of someone, they can't kill him. So basically he says, all right, he's like 30 days. That's easy. That's cash money, dude. What do you mean? This is going to be a breeze. I'll just get somebody to be right here all the time. So first few days, everything goes off without a hitch. Everything's fine. He doesn't see anybody trying to come at him. He sort of starts to, like, people he passes on a daily basis, he kind of starts to like give them like this look, like he's suspicious of them, like they might be one of the hunters trying to kill him. And he also goes and he tries to explain this whole situation to his mom and sisters. And of course they don't believe him at all because everything that he says sounds insane. It sounds like he is just unhinged. So they're just like, okay, you're lonely and sad. You need to like get a dog or something. He has a couple of run-ins after the first few days go off with nothing happening. He's like, oh, sweet. This is going to be just as easy as I thought it would. He has a couple of run-ins with a couple of the hunters, but they're pretty minor. It's nothing really crazy. He had put an ad on Craigslist about this game and to see if there was anybody else that, had been presented with this opportunity or situation, whatever you want to call it. And so a few days into it, he gets someone named Maddie reaches out to him and wants to meet up with him so that they can discuss their situation and like how they're going to handle it going forward. Maddie is played by Anna Kendrick, who has been in a ton of stuff. Basically, they team up. They're like, okay, so if you're not going to try to kill me, I'm not going to try to kill you. Let's just hang out so that for the next 20 some odd days so that we can, not get killed. Firstly, before he meets Maddie, he meets this homeless guy named James, who Tommy just tells him, look, I'll pay you like $20 a day just to stay like right here. No matter where I go, what I do, you are beside me. James is all for it. So he goes and he meets up with Maddie at this restaurant, this Mexican joint, and they team up. There's these little cameras. Um, they're like teeny tiny. They look like little beads. But they are basically a sign that, as Tommy refers to them as ninjas with cameras. That's what he calls them throughout the movie. But he basically, if he finds one, that means that one of the hunters was in the house that he was in, basically just waiting to kill him. So he goes to Maddie's house, uh, just to, they become kind of friends at this point, of course. And he finds one in her house, and there's a cracked door that he wants to investigate because obviously he's very apprehensive about the whole situation. And he finds one of those little cameras. A little like subplot going on the side. Tommy's ex-girlfriend broke up with him. She dumped him for seemingly no reason. Like, in the movie, he says he just came home one day and she just said that she wasn't happy and that she was leaving. So what he does throughout the movie is, and he does it right in the beginning too, is he walks past her house and he wants to go up to the door and knock on the door and just get like a legitimate reason as to why she broke up with him, but he can never build the confidence to actually do it. So he just goes up, and then like right before he knocks, he just never mind, and then he leaves. So that, just keep that back here because that's a little side situation going on. The first night, he and Maddie decide to stay together. They're gonna sleep in the same bed so that they don't get killed in their sleep, because these hunters can show up at literally any minute. You never know where they're coming from or what. So he wakes up and Maddie is gone. Like, oh no, this is bad. He's confronted by these people in like all just dressed in all black, which the guy that talks to him and is like, he wakes up and there's this guy, one of the ninjas, that just whispers to him while like super calmly, is actually the dude, the stoner guy from Stranger Things. His real name is Eduardo Franco. He was in the latest season of Stranger Things, but like, that was just when I saw him and I was like, it's, what's his face? So they go to a motel because they're trying to like keep moving, him and Maddie. They're trying to like keep moving, and just so they're not sitting ducks in this situation. So while they're hanging out at the hotel, they're having a great time. They're getting along, they're getting to know each other, like all this stuff. They're contacted by another player of the game, who claims that he's in the same situation. So they go meet this guy, his name is Charlie, at the same restaurant that Tommy and Maddie met up at originally. And Charlie is played by Gata. If you've watched Dave, you are very familiar with Gata. Gata goes on to tell them that the game is a joke. And basically it's like almost like these like elitist people that they're pretty much watching these struggling people try to survive for sport. That's not like a real thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just for entertainment for these other whoever. And he tells him that these people, whoever they are basically just sitting back and laughing at him, watching him try to survive. Charlie tells them that the game show is DOG, D-O-G, which stands for Delusions of Grandeur. I don't even know what grandeur means. I've heard of it, but I don't know what that means. After they have this meeting with him, because his scene is cut short because Charlie's dad tells him basically to get up, we're leaving. So that's just further proof that like there's somebody else with someone. You know what I'm saying? After this, it sort of seems like it rubs Maddie the wrong way, and she basically is like, okay, I want to just go be alone for a little bit. Like, I just don't want to be around people, whatever. And of course, Tommy's like, what do you mean? What the heck? Like, basically, she just starts acting really weird. Now, he's back to being alone, and he's met in the middle of the night by the same ninja guy who tells him that there's a limo outside waiting for him. And of course, Tommy has questions. Where are we going? Who is it? Is it Andy Samberg again? And basically, the ninja guy tells him, I don't know the answer to any of these questions, but you basically don't have a choice but to go get in the limo. So Tommy strolls outside and he gets in the limo, And he finds his dad sitting in there, which there's this another little like subplot where they talk about his dad, and basically his dad just up and left and didn't say anything to anyone, like zero explanation. That seems to be a reoccurring theme in this movie with people, dads, ex-girlfriends, whatever. But the dad is played by Christopher Lloyd, who famously played Doc from Back to the Future. Even if you haven't seen those movies, you know who I'm talking about. The dad sort of has a strange story about how he got there. He said that Wayne Brady showed up and knocked on his door and flew him to Tommy. At the restaurant, when they were back at the restaurant talking to Charlie, there was like this little side joke about how Wayne Brady was a good game show host. That was sort of odd for him to say. Then there's the whole dad's explanation on about why he left and all that jazz. So after about another day or two, after that scene's done, Tommy gets out of the car. I guess he goes back in and goes to sleep. I don't really know, but he goes back to Maddie's house, and she tells him that she isn't actually playing the game. She just thought it would be fun. She was bored and lonely, so she lied and said that she was also playing the game so that she wouldn't be lonely anymore, which is a kind of messed up thing to do. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I don't care how bored you are. And that she had just seen his ad on Craigslist and just thought it would be like a fun little like side thing to do, like a little side quest she could do, I guess. While he's there, he gets a text from the ninja people saying that they have his mom, like, are holding his mother captive. So he starts to run home, and he is just decked by this weird, like, Ellen DeGeneres lookalike, which is actually supposed to be Ellen DeGeneres. That's another little backstory between him and his ex. They went to like a screening of Ellen, and they were both Ellen fans. But this is when it starts to get kind of like something's off. Like something's weird here. Something's not right. He finally rushes home, and it turns out that it's an intervention for him. And because everything that he's saying is impossible to believe, and it's just actually absurd. So Tommy is like, yeah, sure, okay, whatever. Like, I know what I am experiencing. Shut up. He says he has to go outside to like take a phone call or something, and then he runs away. So he ends up going, him and James, the homeless guy who he hired to be his shadow. They go and they're just like sitting at like the homeless camp, just getting drunk. James tells him that his name is actually Walter. And Tommy is, of course, confused because he's like, you told me your name was James. And he says, I never told you what my name was. You just started calling me James. And then real quickly, Walter, formerly James, gets like right in his face and gets super serious and tells him, like, you can win this. Keep your head in the game. You can actually win and achieve this. Tommy passes out drunk, and he wakes up and Walter's gone. And so at this point, Tommy's only got like maybe a week left of this thing. It might be less than that, maybe like 5 days or so. He basically just hangs out in like the homeless area. So he's always got somebody there, but he literally lives like a homeless person for however many days. I think it's after like 3 or 4 days, he wakes up again by our ninja friend, and he tells him that the limo is waiting for him outside to take him to the end of the game. And he asks if, what happened to Walter. The ninja guy tells him, oh, we took him, put him up in a hotel. He's fine. He's doing great. And then he tells him the reason that they did that was because the audience felt that Tommy and Walter's relationship was becoming, like, they were getting too tight. They had to find some way to sort of isolate Tommy from Walter to make it more interesting for the audience. Then he follows this lady to a bus stop where he, of course, is trying to weirdly stay like arm's length, so he's not in any danger. She leaves, and then this cowboy guy from somewhere comes over and sits down with Tommy and starts talking to him, and he tells him that the whole game was made up for him. The whole game was designed for Tommy. So at this point, he starts to sort of connect the dots, and he starts to think, okay, is this all in my head, or is this just like what's going on? And so he gets up and he runs from the cowboy guy, and he sort of ends up in like this group where he's in the middle, and there's like 2 people in front of him, 2 people behind him. He breaks off from the little group and he tries to make a break for it down an alleyway. Then he ends up back in the limo. The limo's just there. He ends up back in the limo after like jumping a fence or two with Andy Samberg. Hey, basically, Andy Samberg tells him, you can end the game now, but you get nothing, or you can keep going. When you get to the actual end, you'll get the money. He offers, but Tommy says, well, I've come this far. I might as well just keep going. Andy Samberg and the limo pull up to this strange, I'm assuming the same strange warehouse that he ended up in the first place. Gets out of the limo, it speeds off, and then from either side, he is confronted by a sumo wrestler and a guy that, as Charlie said, dresses like Sinbad. So these two ninjas were the two that were trying to kill Charlie, the guy that they met with earlier at the restaurant. They immediately they try to like sort of lure him in, like, oh, like, we can help you help you get through this or whatever. And then they just start chasing him. Runs through the door of the warehouse. He's just running. The one guy, well, there's a guy chasing him with a sword now. It's like all the different ninjas that other people had dealt with were now all chasing Tommy through this building. So he breaks through. He's back in the room that he started out in, where the game was explained to him. And he gets in there and he's just like, I did it. I won. I knew I could do it. And he's just all happy and excited that he survived not getting killed for 30 days. And there's this whole like dramatic monologue thing where he's just like screaming, like, I know I did it. I did it. I won. Bring me my money. All that good stuff. And he says, in this monologue, he says, I learned things. The game helped him in life to meet people, getting that closure with his dad. He's not leaving until he gets his money. So when he says that, all the lights cut on and all the people, like the ninjas, who are like the murderers or the hunters, whatever you want to call them, all come out and they're all clapping and they're all happy and they're like, woo, and they're cheering. The cowboy dude is there and he's got this big box. The two guys that pitched him the game came out. They're like, you did it. Or maybe are they from Greenland? Maybe they look super odd. But anyway, they come out. The cowboy guy has a big box. The two guys that pitched him the game, the two guys that looked European that I didn't know where they were from, turns out they're actually from Greenland, excuse me, because they come out and they give him all the money's in the box, but it's in Greenlandic currency. It's not in American currency. So I don't know how you correlation, like how the whatever it's called, like American currency to Greenlandic currency. I don't know. Then it cuts to he goes back and meets with his family and he's telling them that they won and they're all sort of like weirdly engaged with him, like while he's talking. For people that tried to call for an intervention earlier, they're like weirdly attentive. And then Tommy stands up and the camera pans back and then Wayne Brady is sitting beside him. Everybody's like hugging and he's like, hey Wayne, you want to go get lunch or something, whatever. And then right at the end, Tommy and Walter, or James, the homeless guy, are going up to his ex's house to knock on the door, and then right before he knocks, the movie ends. So yeah, okay. So in conclusion, this movie, it was interesting. It was a fun movie. It was a fun little movie. If you're familiar with Jake Johnson and you're familiar with his style of comedy, his sort of, I don't want to call it dumb, but like that sort of like dumb, witty kind of comedy, where he'll say something funny, but it's just like the way he says it. I'm a fan of Jake Johnson's. I think he's a funny guy, but this movie is basically exactly his style of comedy. Of course, I mean, he wrote it and directed it basically for himself. So it makes sense. Anna Kendrick's character is Anna Kendrick in everything that Anna Kendrick is in ever. She was kind of annoying at times. A couple of times she kind of got on my nerves, but overall I didn't really mind her. And I watched an interview with Jake Johnson about this movie after I watched it because I was curious, and he said in that interview that he wanted to direct it in a way so if you wanted to think that it was all in his head, it would make sense. Like all the components would be there. And if you wanted to believe that it was real, all the components would be there. which he did a pretty good job of. There wasn't anything like it was one of those things where you either believe one or the other, but in both situations it makes complete sense. Like everything that happened made complete sense, and it could either be real or not real. But basically, I personally think it was all in his head. I think it was this way for him to his brain trying to create this complex entertaining way of basically helping him through these certain things, like the situation with his dad, the girl situation, having a friend like Maddie or Walter slash James. But yeah, so if you, like I said, if you're a fan of Jake Johnson, if you liked him in New Girl or Let's Be Cops, he's that character in this movie. He's the exact same person. There was at times there was like a pretty dramatic like tonal shift in it. So like it would go from being sort of funny and like haha to like serious. Like now we're serious. And you just kind of have to like it's kind of at like breakneck speeds at times. It doesn't do it a ton, but it does do it a few times where you're like, "Okay, whoa, what are we doing here?" It's not like I said, it's not the type of you're going to laugh so hard you're going to piss your pants kind of funny, but it definitely is very Jake Johnson, very Anna Kendrick. It's an interesting cast. Even the people that just like Gata, who just kind of came in for a few scenes or a couple of scenes. It's definitely I think it's like I said, it's a fun mystery and actiony kind of movie. So overall, I think I will give this. I'll give it a 6.8 out of 10. Just shy of a 7 out of 10. I think for Jake Johnson's directorial debut, I do think it was pretty solid, especially since, he got it as a Hulu original, which is obviously a pretty big deal. But yeah, I think it's definitely worth a watch if you're kind of into like a fun, trippy trip sesh, I guess. But yeah, that was the movie that I watched. Hopefully I did a reasonably okay synopsis of that. So yeah, again, let me know down below what I should watch, because I need something to watch. So yeah, that was Self-Reliance. Yeah, let me know down below what to watch, and that's all. Bye. Really quick, before I get out of here, if you guys watched my Borgor is Back video, I, at the end, briefly mentioned my sister's dog, Phoebe. Phoebe suddenly and unexpectedly passed away the other night, and it has been absolutely devastating for not only my sister, but anyone who knew Phoebe. She was absolutely the sweetest, most gentle, loving animal that anyone could ever hope or wish for. So I'm just going to throw in this little tribute here for her. She was a huge part in anyone's life that she ever came across. So I'm going to put in this little video here that my sister put together. So yeah, enjoyed this little video of Phoebe, and thanks for watching.